Hello, students. I'd like to welcome you to Electronic Health Records and Digital Health, HIT 125. HIT 125 is a course that will prepare you for various roles within the medical billing and coding profession, as well as the health information technology, health information management, or health services professions. This course will acquaint you with a broad view of the HIM profession, the use of the electronic health record, and how health-related data are used in healthcare settings. If you work in any medical setting, you will encounter a variety of digital health technologies, including the electronic health record and the increasing trend to use artificial intelligence to make existing EHR systems more flexible, intelligent, and user-friendly. I'm Dr. Justin Roos, your online visiting professor. I hold a Doctor of Health Sciences degree, and I'm also a registered health information administrator. I've been in the HIM profession for 40 years. I have 35 years of teaching experience, both in the United States and in the Middle East. I've been teaching for DeVry University for 20 years, and you can find out more about me by reading my biography in the course syllabus for HIT 125. Even though I'm at a distance, because this is an online course, I'm only an email or a phone call away to help you in HIT 125. So here's my contact information on this slide, and I'll be happy to call you if you can provide a day and time that's convenient for you. So here's my email address at DeVry, my phone number. My office will be held in this Engagely classroom that I'm giving this presentation in today. And my office hours are on Monday between 10 and 11 a.m. Central Time, or you can make an appointment to see me during that hour, but please contact me at least 24 hours in advance so that we can schedule the appointment. The purpose of this introduction is also to provide an orientation to 125. And I can assure you that in past sessions, I've given the orientation after the course already starts and nobody attends. So in order to try to get this information to you earlier rather than later, I'm presenting it in the preview period time frame, and I will be asking you to view this recording so that you are on page 1, that we're all on the same page 1 at the start of the course, and we all understand what the requirements are and what the expectations are for the course. And this will vary from course to course and professor to professor. So this is an orientation that will give you more information about how the course is formatted, how it's set up, what the grading rubric for discussions contains, and also what my role is as a visiting professor. Also, we're known as adjuncts. So it's important that you have this information up front from the very first day of the course so that you don't encounter any confusion about what you're expected to do. All right, so HIT 125 is a team teach course. What does that mean? That means that all sections that are taught of HIT 125 are coordinated by 2 team teach leads. And for the Monday cohort is led by a professor. I'm not sure which professor that is at this time, and I'll let you know more later. The Tuesday cohort is led by Professor Saylor. Her name is Crystal Saylor. So we will have a weekly live lecture delivered by our team lead and by various visiting professors that are part of the Tuesday cohort. They're teaching different sections of HIT 125, but those of you that are listening to this presentation, I'm your visiting professor. There will also be a schedule posted in modules under live lessons, and it will list the weekly lectures. It will give you the topics, and it will name the visiting professors delivering the lecture for that week. I can tell you in advance that I delivered the week 5 lecture, and you have the choice of either attending on Monday evening or Tuesday evening. Now, the time for those presentations, those live lessons, will be usually at 6 p.m. Central Time. Now, you have to calibrate this according to the time zone you live in. If you live in the Eastern Time Zone, it will be 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you live in the Mountain Time Zone, it will be 5 p.m. If you live in the Pacific Time Zone, it will be 4 p.m. The live lessons will always be presented in the Engagely live lecture mode. And that is a separate link from this particular room that I'm in right now. You're now in Professor Roos's classroom, which is where I am located during my office hours. But there will be a separate link that you use for your live lessons. Okay, now there may be an exception to the 6 p.m. Time for the first week. I'm not sure because Professor Saylor for the last 2 sessions has given her lecture at 3 p.m. Central Time, but I'll let you know more about that later. I'm not sure if that still holds or not. But anyway, because we give the live lessons on 2 days of the week, you can select the day that works best for you. You know, if you work and you don't get home until 5 p.m. Or 6 p.m., it will be a bit of a rush, but we hope that you can still make it. And if you can't, we have recordings available in the Engagely playback mode for anyone who can't attend the live lesson. Now, I have to emphasize the way we communicate in HIT 125 is through announcements, through emails, through the live lessons where we allow you to ask questions in real time and we provide answers on the spot. So that's the advantage in attending a live lesson. You get to not only interact with your classmates, but also to ask questions of the professor delivering the lecture. And we generally find that students who do attend the live lessons do better in the course. I don't have any statistics backing that up, but the general idea is that students who are more engaged with the material will attend the lectures, and they will study perhaps the information in the lecture helps them to retain the material in the ebook. Okay, so there are due dates in HIT 125, like in any course that you take, and the assignments, the lessons, and discussions in the first 7 modules. We have 8 modules because we cover 8 weeks. These are all due by 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. Notice the time zone here, every Sunday evening. So whatever time zone you're in, configure this deadline so that you don't post late. So the exception to this deadline is week 8, because in week 8, instead of ending on Sunday, we end on Saturday. So this July session will end on Saturday, August 29th at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. So I would suggest that you put that on your calendar, because often we have students that forget the course ends on Saturday and they think they have until Sunday to take the final exam. And then they discover that on Sunday, the course is closed previous evening. There will be a 10% late deduction made for any assignment that is completed after the Sunday deadline of 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. So what I do when I go through the grade book, if I see a late submission, which is highlighted in blue, I automatically take 10% off whatever score you've achieved. Okay, the knowledge check quizzes and the EHR Go quizzes are auto-graded, so that means that when you take one of those quizzes, you will have your grade automatically after you complete the assignment. It will appear in your grade book. The discussions are always graded on Mondays of the following week. Okay, if weekly discussions are not completed by the Sunday deadline, then you're unable to go back to complete them if we're already in a new week. For example, if we're in week 2, you cannot go back and complete your discussions if you miss them in week 1. That's why it's very important to get started when the course opens. And we're going to be opening this session on July the 7th. So mark that on your calendar. All right, continuing, I'd like to go over the grading rubric that is used for your discussions. This is a summary on this slide. In order to look at the complete grading rubric, you need to go to an announcement that's in the course that's already been posted. And you can look at the actual grading rubric in more detail. This is a summation, but I want to give you the categories and the criteria that's used to grade your discussions. So the initial post must be submitted by at least Wednesday of every week for full credit. Now, you can submit earlier than Wednesday for your initial post, but it must at least be in at least by Wednesday in order to get credit for it. All right, so the initial post is graded depending on the completeness, how thoroughly you address the discussion prompts. And this can be a little tricky because sometimes there's 2, 3, and in week 5, there are 5 discussion prompts that you have to address. Now, the word count needs to be at least 100 words for your initial post, but often you'll find that you'll need to go over 100 words. Sometimes you won't need to go over that, but sometimes you will. And also, every research-based question, and most of the discussion questions are research-based. We ask you to do research, and then you must also include a citation. All right. So those 3 things, 100 words in length, address all of the discussion prompts, and include a citation. That's considered a complete initial discussion post that has to be in by Wednesday of each week. In addition to your initial post, you must follow up with 2 peer responses. Those 2 responses must be based on content in 2 of your classmates' posts, and your 2 response posts must be submitted on a different day of the week than the initial post. For example, if you submit your initial post on Wednesday, then you can submit your 2 response posts on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday before the deadline. So you have those 4 days in which to address 2 of your classmates and submit response posts. Okay, now the catch is that they have to be on a different day of the week, and they must be at least 50 words in length. That's not much verbiage. So you must remember that that is the word length, and if it doesn't meet 50 words, include 50 words, then their points are counted off. And also the content of those response posts must be relevant to the topic under discussion in a given week for full credit. If these are discussions are off topic, then that looks like chat room talk, and points are counted off for that. So you have to include your response posts on a different day than Wednesday. If you get your initial post in by Wednesday, you can post them on the same day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. They must contain 50 words and they must be on topic. So that's how your response posts are graded. And there must be 2 of those. So you have 3 posts in every week. That's what the requirement is. Okay. Now, in all weeks except the first week, I will give you feedback on your initial post. Okay. And I will give you balanced feedback because I will tell you what the strength is in your initial post, but I will also point out any deficiency. For example, if your initial post is under 100 words in length, if your initial post does not address all of the discussion prompts for that week, and if the initial post does not contain a citation, if a citation is required, and because citation must be correctly formatted. I'll go over that in just a moment. So by giving you this balanced feedback, see, I will go through on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday and review all the initial discussion posts that have been submitted. I will not review anything over the weekend, but I will throughout the week go in, starting on Tuesday through Friday, and I will read your discussion initial post, and I will give you some feedback telling you where you're on point and where you're off a bit here. So that way you have the opportunity to edit your initial post before Monday, in which I grade, so you can maximize your discussion grade by doing that. The discussions are weighted at 24% of your total grade, which is out of 1,000 points, 240 points are possible. And by doing well in your discussions, it can make the difference between either 1 to 2 letter grades by the end of the course. So if you're aiming for an A, try to do well in your initial posts, in your discussion posts, or if you're aiming for a B. So again, the deficiencies could be one or more of the following. The initial post is under 100 words in length. The initial post does not address all the discussion prompts. The initial post does not contain a citation, or the citation is incorrectly formatted. So points can be lost through not meeting the criteria, either in your initial post or in your 2 response posts. Okay, now I'm going to go over a very important part of the course, and I hope that you're paying attention. This would be the required citations. So whenever you do research, you must include a citation. What is a citation? A citation is, in this case, for purposes of this course, it's a URL, a hyperlinked URL that links to the article or the articles on the website that you accessed for information that you shared in your initial post. Okay, so this will link to the specific article that you referenced, but not to a website landing page. What is a website landing page, or also called a home page? When you go to a website, you generally are, the first page that you see is called the home page. In order to find an article on that website, you have to use the search engine and look for that article. And then when you find the article that you're going to use for your initial post, and you take information from that article, Then you copy the URL and you paste it in at the end of your initial post. Okay, so I have an illustration on this slide. I'm using PubMed Central, which is part of the U.S. National Library of Medicine website, which is considered a reputable, trustworthy website to use. The article is called Social Media and Healthcare Professionals. So you'll notice here there's a URL, and you can see that it starts with https:// and then the name of the article. Okay, when you copy from that article and you paste it, you will have a URL. And then you just, at the end of it, you put your cursor and do a hard return. It turns blue. We know that's then an active hyperlink. If I click on that, it'll take me directly to this article on this website. Okay, so here are the steps. You open the article in your browser. You could do that using this link. Highlight the full address in the address bar, everything starting with https://. Copy it and paste it into your initial post. There's also a keyboard shortcut you can use, which is Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste it. So you can do it either way. You have to highlight it in the address bar, and then you have to right-click on your mouse, and then copy and paste. Very easy to do. I'm sure most of you already know how to do that. No extra information is needed. All you need is that raw URL, and that will meet the requirement as long as it, again, links directly to the article on the website that you used. Okay, so the example that would appear in your post will be the same here as it is up here. That's the same URL. The link goes directly to the article, not to a search page, not to Bing, but directly to the article, and then by doing that, it fulfills the requirement for a citation. It's as easy as that. Okay, now there will be 2 weeks, in week 2 and in week 8, you will be asked to use ChatGPT as a source rather than using a website. So you have to use the correct citation for ChatGPT, and that's very easy to do. But every session I get many, many different variations on this format. So what I suggest is that you copy from this slide and that you put this in a Word document so that when you get to the assignment that requires you to use ChatGPT, you'll have it on your hard drive, pull up that Word document, and then just change the date. You don't have to change the year, change the date, and the questions that you draw from the discussion forum. So these questions are the discussion prompts for week 6. So this is the example that I'm giving you. So in week 6, it will be whatever day that you do your research. I put August 11th. It could be the 12th or the 13th. And there are 3 questions that week in the discussion forum. And so I have them listed here. How can social media help healthcare professionals network, share knowledge, and collaborate with each other? What ethical issues arise when discussing patient cases or asking for clinical advice from colleagues on social media? And what measures should be taken to protect patient privacy and confidentiality when using social media in healthcare? Retrieved from, and here's the URL. Now, when I click on that, it will not take me to ChatGPT that you use to obtain that information. But this is the way to format ChatGPT for this course. So in other words, you're going to use the same questions in the discussion forum, which are the discussion prompt. These are the prompts that you have to address. And when you put this in ChatGPT, you'll get a response. and you can draw that information from ChatGPT and then either paraphrase or summarize it in your own words. That's very important to remember. You do not want to copy verbatim, word for word from ChatGPT, because that's considered plagiarism. So you need to get the information. You can limit how much ChatGPT gives you by specifying how many words you want in your answer. That's considered being specific about the prompt, so that it doesn't give you a long, complicated answer that is more than one page. So you can reduce that that information and put it in your own words, so that it's manageable and is around 100 words in length, or maybe longer. 100 words is the minimum. There's not a maximum, but I prefer I prefer answers that are targeted to the questions and are very direct. Okay. So the last thing that I want to discuss with you, I'm going to take a sip of water here, is the role of visiting professors, also called adjuncts. The reason I'm telling you this is so that you understand from the very beginning of the course that my role is very limited. What I do is I make sure that I support you in your efforts to complete the course, and I support the policies that have been given to you. Those are derived policies, not mine. I did not create the course or the course policies. I did not create the assignments, the lessons, the EHR Go quizzes, the grading rubric, or the discussion topics or prompts. Those were all set by the department. We're in the College of Health Sciences, so there is a curriculum committee. They were involved in revising derived courses and establishing all of this within the course. Our full-time faculty were involved in this, but because I'm a visiting professor, I'm not considered, full-time. So I'm just hired to teach this course. I am under contract, but again, I'm not involved in any of the institutional policies or the curriculum or determining grade standards for the course. That was all done by curriculum committee. So I'd like for you to understand that from the very beginning, and not to blame me if you're dissatisfied with anything as far as the content is concerned. But my role is to guide you through the course, help you to learn, provide support within the framework that is established for the course. Okay, and so on this slide, I'll tell you exactly what I do. As I mentioned earlier, I review each week's initial posts, and I provide balanced feedback, highlighting your strengths and also pointing out areas that you need to improve in, especially if you don't meet the 100-word requirement, if you do not address all the discussion prompts, or if you or if you do not include a citation or incorrectly formatted citation. Okay. So in addition to that, which helps you to maximize your weekly discussion grades, I am flexible. And by that, I mean, if you have fallen behind because of an emergency and you're unable to complete missed assignments in a given week, then you can contact me and tell me what your situation is. And if it's justified, I will allow you to go back and complete those missed assignments. You cannot make up discussions if we're in a new week, but you can go back to assignments or lesson quizzes that you have not completed and complete them. All right. I will send you a weekly email connecting the discussion topic to a real-world workplace practice. It's very important in any course that you take to understand what the practical applications are of that material in the real world, because when you get out and start working and you have a job as a medical biller and coder, then you may remember some of these topics and how they apply to what you're doing. I will also send a Sunday email that summarizes the previous week and gives you a listing of the upcoming assignments and discussions. And I'll also mention the twice weekly live lessons on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, I will encourage you to communicate and form study groups among your classmates, because that's a good way to support one another. And many students find that they get through the course much easier if they can discuss points of concern with other students. So I think that's a good way to do it. Some students go to a particular meeting room, like, for example, in WhatsApp, and they form a group, and then they communicate throughout the session. I also post weekly videos in the discussion forum, and that is considered a brief 5-minute topic. It covers the topic for that week. It's intended as a supplementary learning aid, not as a primary resource, but as a type of springboard to get you acquainted in a general sense with the topic, so that you can then, that will launch you into your research. All right, and then I provide a specific lecture one time, because there's other visiting professors providing lectures in other weeks, but in week 5, I give you the lecture on ethical principles in healthcare. And in that lecture, I demonstrate how the course concepts apply in professional practice. Okay, I hope that you have been able to view this as a recording, and this has helped you to understand what the requirements are in HIT125. And you may have questions, and after you view this, either in the preview period or at the start of the course, and I would consider this a required recording that all students in this section should view. But after you've viewed it, if you have questions, you may email me, and I'll be happy to get back to you as quickly as I can. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording, and I hope that all of you have benefited from the information I've given you, that you will pay close attention to it, and I wish you the best in the July session. Thank you for your attention.